The night was quiet. The sky was full of stars. James sat alone near his campfire. He was deep in the forest, far from any city. He liked quiet places. He liked being alone. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. It was soft at first, like wind, but then it grew louder, a humming noise, like a machine. He looked up. A light flashed from the sky, blinding, bright. He tried to run, but his body froze. His arms wouldn't move. His legs stopped working. The light pulled him up. James screamed. Then everything went dark. He woke up inside a cold metal cage. His head hurt. His mouth was dry. The air smelled weird, like burnt plastic. He looked around. He wasn't on Earth anymore. The room was huge and shiny. The walls glowed blue. Strange creatures, aliens, stood in front of him. Their skin was purple. Their eyes were black and shiny. They wore silver armor and carried weapons. James backed away, his hands shaking. One alien pointed at him and laughed. The others laughed too. He looks dumb. One said in a strange alien language, but James understood every word. He didn't know how or why, but he could understand them perfectly. Still, he said nothing. He acted like he didn't understand. Make him stand up, another alien said. A red light flashed over James's cage. His body moved without control. He stood like a robot. He was scared, but he stayed quiet. Then everything changed. The alien stepped aside. A tall figure walked into the room. The floor lights turned gold. Everyone bowed. It was her. The Empress. She was different. She had silver skin and long glowing hair. Her eyes were bright red like fire. A gold crown floated above her head. She wore a long black robe with glowing lines that moved like snakes. James stared. She was beautiful but terrifying. She walked up to his cage and looked at him closely. She said in her language. So this is the Earth animal? James stayed silent. He looked at her like a confused animal. Inside, he was screaming. He's small. She said, but his eyes are interesting. One of her guards asked, shall we test him? No need, the Empress said. He's harmless. Look at him. He doesn't even understand us. He's just a little pet. James clenched his jaw. He wanted to shout, I understand everything. But he didn't. He stayed quiet. That was his advantage. The Empress smiled. I want him. Put him in my royal chamber. The guards opened his cage. He was pushed out. He looked around and saw other cages, some empty, some with other animals from different planets. They led him through shiny halls with floating lights. The walls had pictures of the Empress on every surface, her standing tall, holding weapons, sitting on a throne, even stepping on planets. She was more than a leader. She was a goddess to them. James was thrown into a glass room full of soft cushions, fruits, and water. It looked nice. Too nice. Enjoy your new home, little pet, one guard said, laughing. The door closed. He was alone again. But this time, he wasn't free. He sat down slowly. His hands were still shaking. His heart was racing. Then he heard a voice. She really kept him? That's crazy, said a voice from outside. It was a guard. She's bored, another guard replied. She wants a pet that looks different. She doesn't even care that it's from a weak planet. Humans are dumb anyway, the first one said. They still use fire and wheels. They laughed. Then they walked away. James stared at the glass walls. He wasn't just taken. He was stolen. He was caged. And now he was being treated like a pet. But he knew something the Empress didn't. He understood their language. He heard their plans. He could listen. He could learn, and maybe he could fight back. But first, he had to play dumb. He had to wait. So when the Empress entered his chamber again and sat near him, James looked up at her with big, confused eyes. She smiled. You're cute, she said. Maybe I'll keep you forever. James blinked slowly. Inside his mind whispered one word. No. James was on his hands and knees, wearing a shiny collar around his neck. The alien empress sat on her glowing throne and tossed a strange purple fruit toward him like she was feeding a pet dog. "Catch it," she said, laughing. The guards around her laughed too. James caught the fruit, but he used his hands. The room suddenly went quiet. The empress tilted her head. Her red eyes glowed softly. Strange. Most animals use their mouths first. James felt a sharp wave of fear run through his chest. He had made a mistake. A small one, but enough to make them suspicious. So he dropped the fruit on the floor and barked. Everyone laughed again. One of the guards bent over, holding his stomach. "Oh, he's funny," the empress said, clapping her hands. "Maybe I'll teach him tricks." James smiled, not with his mouth, but in his mind. Let them laugh. Let them think he's a dumb pet. They didn't know the truth. He understood every word they said. They had stolen him from Earth, locked him in a glass room, and dressed him like a toy. But James wasn't just listening. He was learning. Every day, the empress visited him. She sat close, sometimes feeding him with her hands. Sometimes she petted his hair like he was a harmless creature. And while she spoke freely, believing he couldn't understand her, James remembered everything. "I might invade Earth soon," she said one day. "Just for fun. Their planet looks soft and blue. Maybe I'll take it as a vacation world." James sat beside her like a calm animal, chewing a fruit. But inside he was boiling. She wanted to take Earth to her. It was just a toy. Sometimes the empress spoke to her guards. She talked about enemies, wars, and other alien species. She bragged about how powerful she was, how feared, how loved. One day she said, "I want to rule the stars, not just this galaxy. I want planets to kneel when they hear my name." James rolled on his back and kicked his legs like a happy pet. The empress laughed and threw him another fruit, but James wasn't playing. He was testing everything, watching everything. He noticed one flying drone above his room moved slower than the others. It blinked with a red light instead of green. It buzzed weirdly. He picked up a fruit and threw it at the drone. It hit the metal and bounced off. The drone wobbled for 2 seconds, then fixed itself and floated back. The guards didn't even look up. Weak spot, James thought. That night when the lights went dim, James lay on his back and listened carefully. 2 guards stood outside his glass room, whispering. "She keeps talking about Earth," one said. "You think she'll actually attack it?" "Nah," the other replied. "It's not worth the effort. Just water and weaklings. She probably just wants to feel big." They both laughed. James closed his eyes. But he wasn't asleep. Every word they said stayed in his mind like sharp knives. The next day, something strange happened. The empress entered his room again. She wore a new ring. It had a glowing blue gem. As she walked past the wall, she touched the ring and pressed her hand to a corner. A hidden door appeared. It slid open, just for a second. She stepped inside. James sat still, pretending to chew a fruit, but his eyes were locked on that door. When she returned, her face looked tight and angry. "They dare resist me," she said under her breath. James didn't know who she meant. Another empire? A rebel group? But now he had a new goal. He had to get inside that secret room. That night, she fed him with her own hands again. "You're lucky," she said. "Most of your kind are probably dead by now." James chewed slowly, keeping his face blank. He wanted to grab her wrist. He wanted to fight, but he didn't. Not yet. They all still thought he was a simple pet. They had no idea what was growing behind those calm, quiet eyes. A plan, a fire, a future. Let them think he was harmless. That was their biggest mistake. James waited until the lights dimmed, not because it was bedtime, but because the palace sighed when the lights went low. He had noticed it before. The walls made a soft sound, like a machine breathing. And during that short moment, the cameras blinked off, just 1 second. But it was real. James tested it by standing in a corner with his hands up like he was reaching for something. When the lights came back on, nothing happened. No alarm. No shouting guards. That meant they didn't see him. He was right. There was a gap. A tiny one. And that tiny crack was his key. 3 days ago, James had seen the Empress open a secret door. She pressed her ring to the wall, and it opened like magic. Just for her. She didn't know he was watching. She never did. She thought her pet was too busy chasing his own tail, but James had learned how to stay still and quiet like a true hunter. That door haunted him now. What was behind it? Why did she always come out looking angry? And more importantly, was there something in there that could help him escape? Tonight, he was ready. He had stolen a sharp crystal from the fruit bowl. It looked like a toy, but the tip could scratch glass. He had used it to draw a map on the floor. Every blink, every step, every sound. James sat still, pretending to play with a shiny rock while the Empress entered the room. She looked tired but proud. The new colony is almost ready, she told the guard. Soon we will begin testing weapons. On Earth? The guard asked. The Empress smiled. Where else? James's heart stopped. He had no time left. After she left, James waited. He lay still for hours. He counted the guard's footsteps. 1, 2. Pause. 1, 2. Same rhythm. Predictable. When the lights dimmed, the walls sighed again, and James moved. He rolled toward the corner where he had first seen the secret door. The guards didn't notice. The cameras blinked for just a second, just enough. He pressed his ear to the wall. It was smooth, cold, dead. But then, a sound. A hum. The wall wasn't dead. It was sleeping. James pulled out the crystal. He scratched a small mark on the floor to remember the spot. He didn't know how to open it yet, but he would come back. Again and again, if needed. He rolled back to his cushions and curled up like a good little pet. The lights turned back on. The palace took its next breath. The next day, James watched closely. He waited until the Empress came back. She was wearing the same ring. He watched her hand, every move, every touch. She walked to the same corner. She pressed her palm, and the ring glowed blue. The wall slid open again. This time, James caught something new, the sound of machinery, heavy, like engines or weapons charging. She went in. 2 guards stayed outside. One whispered, "She checks the targeting systems herself now, because of the Earth thing?" The other asked, "She wants it done fast," the first guard said, "before the humans even know what hit them." James felt sick. She was going to fire on Earth, maybe soon. Maybe tomorrow. He couldn't wait anymore. He had to act, but he needed that ring. Or at least something like it. That night, James saw his chance. The Empress had taken off her robe. She tossed it onto a golden chair beside his glass cage. She was distracted, talking to her advisors on a floating screen. And the ring was glowing on the robe's sleeve. James crawled slowly, quietly, 1 inch at a time. He didn't blink. He reached through the bars. His fingers stretched. Almost there. The robe shifted. The ring rolled closer. He grabbed it, slid it into his collar. No one noticed. Not yet. Back in his cage, James turned. The ring in his hands, hiding it under his blanket. It glowed faintly when he pressed it. Tomorrow night, he would return to the wall, and this time, he would open it. Whatever was inside that secret room, a weapon, a map, a key, he would find it. And it would be the first real step towards saving Earth, or destroying the Empress from inside her. Own Palace. James opened the secret room. He thought he'd find weapons, or maps, maybe even a way to call Earth. But he found a chair, 1 chair, in the middle of a dark, cold room. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines. The walls were covered in symbols he couldn't read. Machines blinked softly in the corners, like they were sleeping. James stepped closer. His bare feet touched metal. The chair pulsed with blue light. He looked up. A screen lit up. A countdown? No, a targeting system. Earth was on the screen. It was marked with a red circle. He wasn't early. He was already too late. The next morning, James lay on the floor of his cage, pretending to sleep. His mind was racing. He had entered the secret room. He had seen the truth. The Empress wasn't just planning to attack Earth. She had already chosen the date. It was in 7 days. 1 week, and no one could stop her. Not unless he found help. But who could he trust? Every alien here treated him like an animal. Some laughed at him, some ignored him. But maybe not all of them were loyal. Maybe some of them wanted the Empress gone too. Later that day, 2 alien servants entered his chamber to clean. They spoke in low voices, thinking James couldn't hear or understand. "You hear what she said about the humans' planet?" One whispered, "She's going to burn it just to test the new weapon." The other replied, "Sick. She thinks no one will stop her. She's wrong." They worked quietly for a moment. Then one of them looked at James. "You think it's true what they say?" the servant asked. "That the human pet is smarter than he acts?" The other servant snorted. "Don't be stupid. He rolls on the floor and barks like a dog." James kept his eyes half closed. He didn't move, but his ears were sharp. The first servant whispered again, even softer this time. "Still. I've seen his eyes. He's not just a pet. He's watching." That night, James heard something strange. A soft beep. Then a voice, not the Empress, not the guards, a new voice, speaking in the alien tongue. "If you understand me," the voice said from a small speaker hidden near the vent, "meet me in the garden tunnel tomorrow. Do not bring attention. Come alone." James blinked. Was it a trap? Was it help? He didn't know. But he had no choice. The next night, he slipped out again during the blink, the 1 second gap in the palace lights. He followed the vent's soft glow through the tunnels. No guards, no drones, only silence. Then in the shadows someone stepped forward. Not a guard. Not a soldier. It was one of the cleaning servants. The one with the quiet voice. The servant looked nervous. He held up his hands to show he had no weapons. "I knew it," he whispered. "You do understand us." James said nothing. He just nodded once. The servant stepped closer. "I'm not your enemy. I serve the Empress, yes. But I don't follow her. Not in my heart." James watched him carefully. "Others feel the same," the servant said. "We're many, but we're quiet. We hide. If she knew, she'd kill us." James opened his mouth for the first time in front of any alien. "I need to stop her," he said. "She's going to destroy Earth." The servant flinched. "You speak our language." "I always did," James said. "I just didn't let her know." The servant smiled. "Good. That means we have a chance." Over the next few days, James met more of them, quiet rebels, hidden under the Empress's nose. Cooks, cleaners, low-rank workers, all tired of war, all ready to help. One gave him a stolen map of the palace. Another showed him where the weapons were stored. A third whispered, "We don't need to kill her, just shut down the weapon." But someone else was listening, watching. A high-ranked guard had followed James one night. And now the Empress knew. James was brought before her the next morning. Not as a pet, but as a prisoner. She stood in front of him, her red eyes glowing. "You lied," she said quietly. "You understood us this whole time." James said nothing. "You tricked me," she said. "But why?" James looked her in the eye. "To protect my people," he said. "You call me a pet. But humans, we're more dangerous than you think." The Empress smiled coldly. "Then show me," she said. "Let's see what a human can do when he has nothing left." James stood in front of the alien Empress, hands chained, collar tight around his neck, But he wasn't scared, because the weapon he built, the one made from broken parts, stolen crystal, and a single power core hidden inside a fake toy, was already placed behind her throne. It was ticking quietly, slowly. Right under her glowing red eyes, the Empress smiled. "So," she said, circling him like a hunter, "you fooled us. A human, a little animal from a forgotten planet." James kept his face calm. "You watched me, listened to me, and waited. Very smart." She leaned closer, but not smart enough. She turned to her guards. "Bring the translator. I want to hear his real voice. Let's see what he's hiding." They thought they were in control. They didn't know the clock had already started. Hours earlier, James sat in his golden cage, fake sleeping, while two guards cleaned the walls and talked. He had already broken the tiny floor panel behind the cushions and pulled out pieces of wiring from under the ground. It had taken weeks to gather enough. One power chip from a drone, a focusing lens from a cleaning bot, a casing from a food tray. Now it was complete. A small device no bigger than a fruit. Not a bomb, not yet, but something worse. A pulse weapon. Silent, clean, no fire, no mess. Just a quick shutoff of every control system around it. He named it the Sting. James planted it while pretending to chase a ball around the throne room. He rolled it behind the Empress's tall seat. A perfect blind spot. He had only one shot. Once it fired, the ship's weapons would be down. The security field would fail. For 4 seconds, the palace would be blind, and that would be enough. But something changed. A high-ranking guard noticed the Empress's missing ring, the one James used to enter the secret room. The guard raised an alert. "He's not just a pet," the alien shouted. "He's a spy." They searched James's room, found the broken pieces, the map, the symbols he copied, the timing charts, everything. Now, James was chained. Now, they were watching him closely, but they were too late. The Sting was armed. In the throne room, guards lined the walls. Floating weapons hovered nearby, ready to fire. The Empress stood tall. Her robe glowed with dark energy. Her fingers were covered in rings, tech power control. "I should have killed you," she said softly. "But now, I want to see you break." James looked up at her, smiling slightly. "You think you know everything," he said. The translator device blinked. His voice echoed in their language. Every guard froze. "You hear that?" One whispered. "He speaks clearly." The Empress narrowed her eyes. "How long have you understood us?" "Since day one," James said. "Since the cage, since your fake kindness. Since you threw fruit at me like I was a dog." "Why didn't you speak before?" James shrugged. "Why? Would I talk when I could listen?" The Empress's jaw tightened. "I should end your planet right now," she hissed. James smiled wider. "Go ahead, try." She raised her hand. The throne screen lit up. "Target, Earth. Fire in command queue." She looked down at him. "Any last words, Pat?" James whispered, "Say goodbye to your throne." And then, the Sting activated. A pulse of blue light flashed behind the throne. The lights flickered. Weapons dropped from the air. The guard's armor sparked. Screens shut down. The Empress spun around. "What?" James moved. He kicked the closest guard in the knee, grabbed his fallen blaster, and fired into the ceiling. Sparks flew. He ducked, rolled behind a column, and ran toward the open hallway. Chaos exploded around him. Guards screamed. Lights failed. Doors slammed open and shut. For the first time, the palace was not in her control. The Empress shouted, "Stop him!" But her voice echoed in a broken room. James sprinted into the tech wing. The rebels had told him where to go. The comms tower was nearby. A way to send a signal out into space. If he could reach it, he could warn Earth. Behind him, footsteps thundered. Too many. He wasn't fast enough. He turned a corner and stopped. 2 rebels were waiting. One threw him a cloak. "Go. This way." James followed them into the service ducts, crawling fast. Alarms wailed. The Empress's voice screamed. "Across the ship. Find the human. Kill anyone who helps him. Burn every traitor." But James was already gone. And for the first time, she was afraid. The blast doors opened, and James stood there, not crawling, not barking, not pretending. He stood tall, a stolen blaster in one hand, his fake collar thrown on the ground. Across the command bridge, the Empress turned slowly in her throne. Her red eyes narrowed. "Impossible," she whispered. Guards aimed their weapons. Officers gasped. Servants froze for the first time since he was captured. James looked like a man, not a pet. He stepped forward, calm, cold. "I was never your toy," he said. The translator repeated his voice in perfect alien language. The room went dead silent, and then everything fell apart. 12 minutes earlier, James had slipped out of the vents and into the broadcast chamber, the heart of the Empress's ship. He activated the emergency speaker system. He spoke one sentence. "I am not an animal, I am human. And I understand you." That message played through every hall, chamber, and guard post across the ship. One sentence, and the lie died. The guards dropped their helmets. The workers gasped. The Empress's illusion shattered. She had treated a thinking man like a pet, laughed at him, dressed him in chains. Now they knew. Everyone knew. The Empress was furious. "You want war, little Earthman?" she hissed. "I'll give it to you." She stood up from her throne and waved her hand. Her weapon systems tried to respond, but many were offline. The damage from the sting had spread further than James thought. Still, some guards obeyed. They moved to surround him, but a voice cried out, "Wait!" One of the high-tech officers stepped forward. "Is it true? He understood us all this time? He's dangerous." Another shouted. But the officer paused. "Or maybe he's not the dangerous one. Maybe she is." Murmurs began. Doubt spread. The Empress felt it. Her rule shaking. "Enough." She yelled. Her voice cracked like thunder. "He fooled you all. He played you like a rat." James stood firm. "No, I learned from you. I listened. You showed me everything. Your secrets. Your lies." He pulled out a small chip, a recording. The day she spoke about Earth like it was a playground. A target. A joke. He pressed it. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Let's see how fast their oceans boil." Silence followed. Then came whispers. Disgust. Confusion. "She wants to destroy an entire planet," one servant said. "She lied to us," another muttered. "She's mad." The Empress looked around and saw fear in her own people's eyes. But it wasn't fear of James. It was fear of her. She snapped. "Kill him," she screamed. "Now." The guards raised their weapons. James closed his eyes. But the first shot didn't come. Instead, a young soldier dropped his blaster. "I won't do it," he said. "He's not the monster here." Another followed. Then another. Half the room lowered their weapons. The Empress stood alone, her robe still glowing. Her crown still bright, but no one stepped forward to protect her. She growled. "You think this is over? I still have my command, my ship, my power." James looked at her. "No," he said. "You have something else now." She raised an eyebrow. He stepped forward. "You have a choice." James walked toward her slowly. Guards didn't stop him. They watched, silent. "You can end this, right now. Call off the weapon. Let Earth live. Step down before you lose everything." The Empress laughed bitterly. "You think I care about Earth? About you?" "No," James said, "but I think you care about how history remembers you." She looked into his eyes. "I was a goddess," she said. "They feared me." James nodded. "And tomorrow they'll remember you as the Empress who got tricked By her own pet. The line hit like a hammer. Her hand clenched, but she didn't speak. Not yet. A red light blinked on her throne. Panel. Target. Earth. Status. Armed. She stared at it. Then back at James. You want mercy? She asked. No, James said. I want peace. A long silence passed. Then the Empress reached forward and pressed a button. Target. Earth. Abort signal sent. The room was silent again. James lowered his blaster, and the Empress, for the first time, looked tired. I should kill you, she said. James nodded. You still might, but not today. She turned away, and the guards slowly stepped back. James walked out of the throne room, passing soldiers, servants, and citizens who stared at him with wide eyes, not as a joke, not as a pet. As a symbol. As a man who stood up. The Empress sat alone. No crown, no glowing robe, no guards. Just silence. She stared out the wide glass window of her warship, once her throne in the stars. Below her, the planets drifted quietly. No one bowed anymore. No one cheered her name. Behind her, James stood. No chains, no collar, no cage. Just a simple human in stolen armor, watching the galaxy she nearly destroyed. She didn't turn. You came to gloat? James stepped closer. No, I came to ask one last question. Her voice was dry. Go on. He looked at her back, the woman who once called him pet, who laughed as she planned Earth's death. If I had stayed quiet, he said, if I had barked and rolled over forever, would you have loved me more? She was silent, then. She said softly, yes. James nodded. I thought so. Hours earlier, the ship's command center had been filled with shouting. Some wanted to execute the Empress. Others wanted to exile her. Some called James a hero. Some still called him an animal. James said nothing. He sat quietly listening. Again, he had no interest in power. But power was interested in him. You stopped her, said one rebel leader. That means you lead now. I didn't come here to lead, James said. Then Earth will burn when someone worse takes her place. Those words stuck. He didn't want a throne. But he didn't want a repeat either. So he made a deal. Now, James stood before the Empress, holding a small case in his hands. This is a one-person pod, he said. It's programmed to land on a lifeless moon. No tech, no weapons. You'll live but not rule. She turned and stared at the case. You're letting me live? I'm giving you something you never gave me, James said. A choice. She laughed once, tired, bitter. I could kill you, she said. You could try, James answered. But that would prove I was right about you. She looked down. Her voice changed. I thought you were weak. I thought your kind were small. You still are. But I was wrong about one thing. What? You never needed power to win. You just needed patience. He nodded. And you gave me time. While you showed off, I was learning. While you talked, I listened. While you ruled, I watched. She closed the case and walked to the pod bay. As the door opened, she turned back. One last time. If we meet again, she said, I'll try harder. James smiled. If we meet again, I won't roll over. The door shut. The pod launched. The galaxy was quiet again. Weeks passed. James sat in the Empress's old throne, not because he wanted it, but because no one else could stop the chaos without him. He gave orders. Not to conquer, but to rebuild. He released prisoners from dying planets. He shut down weapons aimed at peaceful worlds. He sent a signal back to Earth. To anyone listening, I was taken. I was treated like an animal, but I learned their language. I saw their plans. And now I've stopped them. I am not a pet. I am human, and I'm coming home. But before he could return, something new appeared. Another ship. Bigger than the Empress's, darker, faster. A message blinked onto the screen. We received your signal. We know what you did. But not everyone wants peace. Prepare yourself, Earthman. James stared at the stars. He wasn't scared, not anymore. Stood up from the throne, checked the armor on his chest, and whispered, "Let them come."